If you want to scale your current agency or business and want your workflows and operations to run smoother, then this video is for you. I'm going to cover every single thing in ClickUp there is on how to actually build, scale, and launch inside of the platform. So this is a training session, and this will be a longer series of multiple episodes on how to use, how to build, and how to understand ClickUp to the full extent. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Max. I'm the co-founder of Well-Designed and FlowClick, and we help agencies scale or just businesses with operations, with automations, and with system. And this is a mini course on how to actually start from the beginning up using ClickUp and some training around it. So I cover exactly everything when it comes to the suite platform of ClickUp. And if you're new to the platform, just sign up using my link below. It's a project management / CRM system, can be used for both. And yeah, just search for ClickUp pricing and you will find plenty of alternatives on how much it costs. In this case, I want you to start off with the free plan, right? So you can use ClickUp forever for free. There's no cost of running ClickUp for you. Sure, if you want to scale, if you want to add more functions, if you want to use to the full extent, then you can pay, right? But in this start of this course, I'm going to do basically everything in the free plan to show you how much you can do. And some functions will be provided, which are on the paid plans, such as Unlimited, Business, or Business Plus, because there are different tiers. So that's worth mentioning, right? So if you're excited, drop a thumbs up, and yeah, let's get straight into using ClickUp. So the core structure of ClickUp, obviously I have some spaces now, but if you're starting out, then you want to start with creating a new space. And I'm going to call this space ClickUp Training. If you were the business starting out, and if you are the person starting up with ClickUp, start with having your business name or whatever structure you want to have. I recommend having this structure in ClickUp specifically for me when it comes to building systems and overall just kind of scaling, right? Think about this. So this is a space, a workspace, right? So the main hierarchy is the space, right? This is a space. That's what's called a space in ClickUp. And space is basically like a department or a bigger function in the team. And I always want to have as little or like a few spaces as possible. The more spaces you have, the more complex it's going to be. And imagine a workspace as their own department. So the more we can add on the one workspace, the better, because it just keeps things smoother and overall it keeps operations easier, right? And I always have this framework when building ClickUp systems for people or just project management and CRM systems. The simpler it is, the better it's going to work. So when we're creating a space, start off with one main workspace, right? And in this case, let's actually call this just FlowClick. You can also upload your logo. You can change the permissions. You can create the owners. You can change different views. But when you're starting out, this is a bit too complex. So let's just start by using the icon. So add the icon. Once you have added the icon, save the changes, and this will be your main workspace you live. So the more systems we can create under this workspace, the better. And the hierarchy of ClickUp is space. It's space, so let me write this out. It's going to be text. ClickUp structure. Number one, space, folder, list, tasks, subtasks, and then subtasks within subtasks. Okay? And this will all make sense in a second. And I want you to actually understand the full structure of ClickUp, of how it actually works, right? So the first part is creating the folder. Let's call the first folder project management, because in the core, ClickUp is a project management system. However, you can still create it as a CRM. That's going to be for the next couple of videos when we go to more complex stuff. But that's basically the core, right? We're going to have the space. This is the space name. We're going to have the project management list where all your projects will be. And under that, we have something called lists. And in lists are where all the tasks you have to do as a team will be. So to recap, that's the hierarchy of the structure. So I'm going to actually create another whiteboard here, just to kind of visualize how this works. So space, main workspace, folder for each thing. So I'm going to just now, for the future, create another folder called internal. Create another folder, which is called CRM. And we want to, of course, split those up. But keep in mind, for some large organizations, if you're enterprise, if you are a bigger team, let's say you're 100+ employees, the structure of ClickUp is going to be a bit different. So keep that in mind. But I always like to have a simple framework when I build ClickUp, especially when you're starting out. The simpler it is, the better it's going to work, and the more usage you're going to have of it, right? People add all the stuff, they make it super complex, they build it enterprise. Very important to keep track of, right? When you're building ClickUp is if you are a small business owner or small to medium-sized business, build a workspace for a small to medium-sized business. If you are an enterprise, you build for enterprise workspace, right? Enterprise. So it's super important to keep track of which of the levels you currently are at. Okay? So if you are, so this, I think this structure is suitable for teams around all the way from 1 to about 60 employees or so, depending on what work you do, how many clients you have, how many employees you have. It really depends on a lot of factors, and everything is custom based on each client. But if you're in that range, this will work for you, the same structure. It's just going to be less complex or more complex depending on how much work you have to do. And in this specific example, I'm going to actually do this for a marketing agency. So if you're a marketing agency, this is going to be specifically for you. If not, same structure appears. I'm just going to have it more tailored to you. So there will be a couple of different structures. This will be a marketing agency. Let's say they are 15 employees. They do SEO and website dev, right? That's the specific use case. So those are the people we're going to build with. However, if you are a meta specialist, if you do AI automation, if you do anything similar, or just as a business, you're going to have the same structure. Where this can kind of vary is if you're a software service, so SaaS. If you're in the more tech space, then you might kind of have and utilize ClickUp a bit differently because you can use sprints and some more complex stuff. But to the specific point here, we're going to have the project management, and the project management list is the service we're going to do. And currently we have 15 employees, we have SEO, a website as our main services, and that's what I'm going to build from. So the first part is the SEO foundation, right? Because if you're doing SEO, of course, you're also doing the website. I think that's quite clear. So the first part is the SEO foundation, right? I'm going to, let's say, put a globe. Now, these lists in ClickUp are the lists you're going to be working in to an extent, right? So in this actual workspace here, you won't work inside of this, right? This is just a hierarchy for all the other tasks. Now, the foundation is the same thing. So in the SEO foundation, we're going to work as tasks. So the first thing I'm going to say is the client name, let's say, FlowClick. I'm going to assign a person. And this is the core of ClickUp, right? Now we have the list. we can start by creating the to-do lists. So imagine project management systems and ClickUp, Monday, Asana, and so on, Notion, as a huge but structured to-do list for companies and for businesses. Notion is like a good freelancer platform. ClickUp and Monday is for more established businesses. Same with Asana, even though I think Asana is a bit outdated now. It still works, right? I build with those as well, of course. Now, in the core part, this is the name. So you can structure it two ways. Either you'll have the client name and the name of the tasks. Create a SEMrush report. Or the other way around, where you just put the create a SEMrush report. Client name. Let's say FlowClick. And then we can have the specific tasks within the tasks. There's plenty of different ways of how you can structure ClickUp for your team. This is more personal preference, but mainly how your team works. If you're doing recurring tasks, then we might do anything different. So it depends. Now, when you're sorting out, I believe that the list of just per client is almost smarter. So if you are a smaller business, I would just do list. I would do client, or let's say delivery. I'm just going to say project management. If you're like a solo entrepreneur, or if you have like two employees or so, I would just use this and then write client name. So FlowClick, well designed, Amazon, Facebook, etc. And then put the tasks under each specific thing. So create SEMrush report, finish up the website, and so on, right? But I don't think that's quite relevant, because if you're like a bigger team and you're like 10, 15 employees, this won't run, so we won't cover that today. But that's kind of how we structure it, and it's usually enough when you're starting out. It's more about you getting more clients than you finding the best system, if you're like one employee. Now, what else do we have here? We're going to have Google Business profile. That's one list. We're going to have the content list. We're going to have a list called website development. We're also going to have a list called SEO. Let's just call it SEO Master or SEO. Actually, let's call this audit, business audit, and then SEO. Of course, SEO Mastery. Then we're going to have another list called reporting. And then another list called ad hoc tasks. So, what have we done now? To understand ClickUp, you have to understand how ClickUp is built, right? They're very much correlated in terms of how ClickUp is working and how you build the ClickUp, right? So, even though you won't probably do this yourself, maybe you'll hire someone, maybe I will help you, then it's worth mentioning that it's still good to know how ClickUp is built and why it's built the way it has been created. So, each of these lists are people who are going to fulfill different types of services. If you're in Meta Ads, it may be Meta Ads, Google Ads, or like Meta Content, Meta Publishing, Meta Reporting. It depends on what level of structure your team you are. If you just have like 2 clients and do like Meta Ads for them, then you probably don't have to have a separate list for all of this stuff. But if you are like 10, 15, 20 employees, then this is the range you want to be and how you want to build it, right? So I always prefer to having emojis. I think it looks good. So Google business profile. Is there a Google logo? I know there is. Always has to be. Maybe not. Ooh. Gmail. So always find relevant emojis because I do think it looks appealing. It's easier to just see the difference between them. So Google business profile. Let's just pick a... Is there a search? Is there an... You can basically pick whatever here, whatever you think is relevant. I like to make this like correlated to the service. Sometimes I don't, but most of the time I want to have it very similar to what the service is. So you can just see by the emoji, okay, this is what we have to do. Let's just pick this one, even though it's not the best. Content, let's do writing or pages or... Is there an emoji that we have which is relevant to writing? I believe that a pen would be nice to have. Like this. Then, okay, I think the other pen was better, to be honest. Pen. Website development. Well, let's put in a computer. Is there a screen? This works, sure. Even though I think it's the best. PC, laptop, perfect. SEO mastery. Here I actually want to have the chart instead, or like this. SEO and then globe. And then reporting is going to be to-do list, more or less. List. And then let's just triangle. Right. So it's very nice to see, okay, content is writing, website development is about website, SEO is like a globe, so you can perform. Makes sense, right? So when you're now building out each ClickUp, this series will cover a lot of stuff, very in-depth stuff, but also in general stuff. So later down the lines, we'll also create recurring tasks, things that happen automatically, and things that occur automatically. So you just sign in and that's it, right? But once we have the different services, I want to create a list in the CRM space. We're going to make this more developed more later down the line, but at the moment, let's just call it active clients. And put in a person. Always put in a person. This. And let's add our first couple of clients. So let's call the first client. We're going to create two lists. One called active client. The other called duplicate view list. Churn clients. And let's just switch up the different tags. So active client. And then churned. So to understand ClickUp, as said, you have to understand how ClickUp is built. So we're going to have different lists depending on what you do for a client. So when you're now working ClickUp, you are going to have your specific list you're going to be working on. And ideally, we want to separate the work by the work you do, which means you have one list for the business audit, one list for the Google business profile optimization, one list for the content writing, so writing the pages, making the images, making the visuals, one page for the website development. And that's how the ClickUp is going to be structured, by each list and by each work you do, if that makes sense. Now, when you're doing the work for the client, we want to put in the recurring tasks. So this is a task list. In this task list, you're going to put in the work that needs to be doing. So what could that be in the business audit? Well, I'm going to, what other tasks do I want to do? I'm just going to put my SOP checklist. What SOPs do I do for each client in the business audit? It can vary, sure. We're going to structure around different examples. If they have a lower tier, if they have a higher tier, it can vary. sometimes not. But maybe let's say for the business audit, it doesn't vary. It varies for the content and the Google Business Profile optimization. That can vary, but at the moment, let's just keep it simple. What do I do when I check out the client? Well, I audit the website. What else do I do? Audit the website. I do full SEO report. What else do I need to do? Well, I summarize meeting points. Maybe not. I audit their website. I do full SEO report and rankings through SEMrush. Let's just put that. People know that it's SEMrush, right? What else do I need to do when I work with the client? Some of you will have full-on SOPs written down below, like, hey, I have this in a document, I know what I do. Some people don't. Some people don't think about how they work with the client. And an important thing to know is you have to know how you work when you have a client on board. We have auditing the website. We do the full SEO report and rankings. We strategize SEO plan. So once we have created the SEO report, we also strategize the plans that come in the next 6 months, 12 months, because we know, okay, they place good for the, let's say, do the amazing for a specific keyword for barbers in Atlanta, but they don't perform barbers in New York or something that's more broader, right? So we want to have specific ways of working. What do? We create the SEO strategy plan, and then after we've done that, we record a Loom for client. And also we have to attach the document in here. So I have to attach the SEO strategy document once I've signed the client, because I think it's super important. That's the process. That's what we do as a business when we signed up a client. This is before the, like after you actually sign a client, you have it on board, you have got all the details and so on. That's the first step. Well, what else do we need to do? I probably do something like this. I create personal SEMrush account, or like create personal client account. Actually, yeah. And that's it. And some of you will have like, hey, get access to their meta account, set up their meta pixel, set up this and this. That can be done in the onboarding list, which we're going to cover later on the line, or can be done here. You decide, it works the same way. Now, once the specific tasks you do on a recurring basis has been done, we're going to assign the people who do the tasks. In this case, you can do it manually, or you can do it automatically. We'll cover both, just so you know. Manually, you just assign the people, right? In this case, just me in this workspace. So just pick me for everything. I'm the one always recording the looms for clients. I'm the one always attaching the documents and so on. Now, once the SOPs have been done for each department, in this case, it's only the business audit, we want to create the different variables we need to have in ClickUp. We have to have the due date. We have to have the assignee. We have to have the priority. But also worth mentioning, I want to have more stuff. Well, I want to have a, let's say, a drop-down files document. Why do we want a files? Well, we want to have a place where we can upload the document. I'm just going to hide this. And ClickUp hierarchy works that, okay, you see these three columns. And if you hide something like this, it will be hidden under the specific tasks. And in here, you will see all the details, all the stuff you can see. Document custom field is in here. Very straightforward. You can also write comments. You can also write more stuff regarding the like specifics. So, hey, this client wants to focus in the New York market specifically. You can have some notes around it. Now, we want to create the different stages based on different client. In this case, let's call a drop down. Stages. The first stage is the audit, create personal plan, and attach. Actually, let's just call record loom for client. Yeah. Let's just make in different colors. I can grab this. And I will cover this while we're going to do this later. If I'm helping out building this, you don't have to cover this. This is just for some structure issues. Okay. Well, the other one was brighter, which I don't like. White. Nice. Okay. So ClickUp works as in we have the things we need to do. So create this. Also create the subtasks for a department. And if you have multiple checklists on your department, create SOP checklist 1. SOP checklist 2. SOP checklist 3. I would rather name them like the same way we have the stages. So we have create personal loom. Create SOP checklist foundation. SOP checklist. Create plan. Send loom. Right? I put them under the each document. So like this and like this. Those are the 3 steps in your department that you do on a recurring basis. Let's just assign myself again. And let's put them under the correct list. Loom. Create person audit. And audit. So if you're working with me, you're going to create different checklists like this. And very easily have them through different. For now, let's pick stages. And let's put like this, right? Audit stage, create personal plan stage, and record loom for client stage. We're going to have 2 lists. 1 list for to do. And 1 list for completed. And the completed stages, probably not needed right now. I'll cover that later on the line. So, once you've done this for the department, I want you to create different stages, create different tasks you do. You can also do this if you want, like tomorrow or like do this after and so on. That's up to you. Some people want to have like, as soon as the client checks in, we're going to have, we have to get the audit done by tomorrow. Like 1 day after this thing occurs, right? Or this needs to be done 2 days after. And this needs to be done also 2 days after. And this needs to be done like 3 days after. And so on. I'm going to have this in there as well. So now once you have done that, I want you to understand kind of hierarchy on how you work in ClickUp. You can have either lists. This is a list. Or you can have Gantt charts. Works the same way. You can work in Gantt charts. It's different views of working in ClickUp. All of them work the same way. As in, you have the foundation, you have the lists. You can have different timelines, right? So if I just, let's set due days tomorrow. I will see the list as a sprint or kind of as a task. You can see due date tomorrow. And I can like, hey, this is what is going to happen in the next 2 days. It's going to go from December today to December 19th. right? Some people also like to work with a view called the Kanban view, which also is a board view, which you have native through here, right? Works the same way. Also worth mentioning that it still works the same way. You can move tasks, you can see to do, move in progress, right? You can move them however you want. So if you move this to create plan in progress, you can see that create plan is now in progress status, right? You can do everything as you can do in here, subtasks, you can see how they work, you can customize them, you can change names, you can do exactly everything the same way. I personally, as a huge ClickUp user, prefer to use lists. I think it gives you the best hierarchy, the best view, and the best way to actually use ClickUp. Now that you understand the core functions of ClickUp, creating the SOPs, creating different views, you can play around with this. There's tons and tons of views. Also depending on what plan you have. Paid plans, more functionalities. Free plans, less. You can have documents, writing documents, right? So you can write about the client. Or you can have calendar views, which is a huge one for a lot of people. If you have content calendar. And in this mini series, we'll cover exactly everything. And I have a huge ClickUp workspace. As you can see here, I have basically everything in my ClickUp. I have everything from the CRM, project management, income and breakdown, which is financial data, outreach stats, documents, daily uploads, competitor analysis, business notes, discovery calls. I have another space called marketing and sales, and I have a huge ClickUp in general. So we're going to cover exactly everything: the financial side, the this side of creating the project management, the CRM side, the content side, the sales and marketing. Everything will be covered. So this will be quite a long series of how to build ClickUp from the ground up, but I wanted to be in very detail to understand how to actually build out the best possible ClickUp. So once you've completed that, you can play around with different views, calendar views, you can play around. You can see my next foundation, or the next 3 days, I'm going to do the client SOP checklist for the next 3 days. Now, when you're working in ClickUp, I want you to each time you have done something important, if you work as a team, if you have your employees, if you're the one creating everything, I want you to very important to everything you do in ClickUp, you opt in ClickUp. If a client request come in, you opt it in ClickUp. If something new comes in, you opt it in ClickUp. Everything that happens in the business, you update in the ClickUp. Okay? So if I now do the auto website, I have completed a task. It will still be seen in here. You see? Still be seen. If anything happens now, I tag the correct person, myself. I have now created the audit. Here's the Google document / ClickUp document, whatever you use. You add the link, or you have currently or update today, December 17th, 2005. I've done the website audit. When that task now keeps moving to the next stage, let's say I just move this down here. Let's move everything. The person, like the next team, will see what I have done, if that makes sense. So each team knows very well in what stage they have done things and works extremely well. And it's good to know, right? So if I now move this back just for like simplicity's sake, that's how you kind of do and work in ClickUp in a simple way. And this will be the first episode of how to structure things. So now from this video, I want you to create your own list, create the different documents of different stages. This could be like, hey, if you're now a meta agency or like do ads or do whatever else, what do we do? How do you structure this? Okay, let's put another example. Well, if you're doing ads, doing meta ads, you first meta audit, check ad spend, check budget, check creatives, check split tests, check everything, right? Meta audit. Then what we do? Well, we create 6-month plan. What we do after? Well, the next board is going to be the same board, of course. Next thing, what do we do? So this board, meta audit. Next board, we're going to have the optimization or like meta business profile. Meta business profile optimization. That's just something I just came up with. Next step, content writing or like ideas and content writing. Next step, implement the content or like add the creatives or whatever, right? Add or like handle meta ads and systems. So like, hey, they set the creatives, this is the budget, do everything else. They add different split tests, ad sets, ad creatives, and so on. So you create this list depending on how your process works. And if you're a solo team, let's say you're a single person business, you can still do this to an extent if you want to. Something worth keeping in mind that if you don't have a standard process of working, create one because you have to need one if you want to have proper business. If you're just doing like random work for random people at random times, you don't have a structure where you're working. And I fall into this kind of trap myself sometimes. So how do I structure things at my own kind of agency? Well, I have active clients, or like in this case, project management. And then I have client name. And then I have the to-do list for each client. So I hope that makes sense. I want you to you yourself create the list, create the systems, and then from there you can understand the core foundation. And then the next episode we will go through on how to add the recurring stuff, the automation stuff, and how to actually use that to full extent. Worth mentioning, there's a ton of things I don't cover in ClickUp. There's time tracking, there's workload management, there's labels, numbers, statistics, drop-downs, views. I don't think it's the most necessary part yet. We'll cover that stuff later online once we want to upgrade the system. But at the moment, we just need to create the SOPs and the standard operating procedures, right? So hope that makes sense. Create it yourself. And if you ever need help, just shoot me a text and I'm always happy to help you out. So thank you. Hope you enjoyed and have a wonderful day.